Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Aiden, from Cartoon Apocalypse, and welcome back to a analysis video over the New York special from Miraculous Ladybug. Now, this is the long-awaited episode, the only episode that we will be getting this year of 2020, which, I mean, it was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it, highly recommended. But it's kind of sad that that's the only episode that we're going to be getting because Season 4 was pushed back to 2021, and the Shanghai special, I don't think is anywhere close to being ready. Like, I think that's supposed to come out in 2021 as well, and so the movie's supposed to come out in 2021, so this was the big piece of content that we were getting for this year. So, yeah, but luckily, hey, we're pretty close to 2021, so yeah, maybe we can get out of this bad year. But anyway, as I was watching the New York special, I went ahead and jotted down a couple things I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I can't touch on every little thing because some of the stuff was more important than others, so I picked out some of the more important things and the more lower-y type things that I felt like was more important, so that's what I'm going to be going over. If I missed something and you're like, hey, I want you to talk about this, I'm always open to making another video on stuff. This is just my general analysis of all the important things that I felt was important from the New York special. So yeah, let's just go ahead and hop right into this. Now, one thing that I and pretty much everyone else noticed is that a lot of the voices sounded off. They felt deeper than they were in previous episodes. Now, honestly, I have no idea why they did this, okay? I actually prefer the higher pitched voices, so that was the biggest thing that put me off with this special, is that most of the voices sounded weird. The couple that weren't as bad were Hawkmoth, Adrian's voice wasn't too bad, and then a couple others, but a lot of the characters felt deeper. Now, one thing that I did want to point out with that is that Nino's voice actor actually changed. So, I don't remember who the past one was or the current one, but there's a different voice actor for Nino. Now, when I was watching this the first time, I didn't actually notice because all of the voices sounded a little bit different, and that may have been the reason why they were like, okay, let's make all the voices sound a little bit different just to make Nino's blend a little bit easier. But out of all honesty, like, switching a voice actor, fine, whatever, right? Nobody really likes that because it's different. But, you know, whatever. There was reasons for it, and it happened, okay? There's nothing you can do about that. But I don't think you should change the entire cast's voice just because one voice actor changed, right? And Nino's new voice actor doesn't even sound that different. Like, it's not that bad, okay? Like, I feel like he matches the role very well. So, I don't know why all of the voices were deeper. Like, especially Marinette and Alia's. Like, those were the two noticeable ones, I felt like. So, I don't know, it just kind of was annoying, and whenever I heard them speak, it was like, okay, something is off and I don't really like it. So, I don't know why they did. Hopefully, or maybe we will get some clarification on that, but I just wanted to point it out there as something that I didn't know what was going on, and I'm just waiting for more info on it. Next thing is the continuity. This episode is so good with the continuity. It picks right up after Season 3. And so Thomas previously said that it was an in-between between Season 3 and 4, and oh man, they had a lot of references. The relationships between Marinette and Adrian have continued since Season 3, and so it really felt like a Season 4 Episode 1. Like, it really felt like new content. It wasn't just something like, oh, you could watch this before watching any of the other episodes. No, you have to watch this after Season 3 and before Season 4. So I felt like that was really amazing. And I don't know, this gives me high hopes for Season 4, but there's no, like, promises that all of Season 4 will have good continuity. I'm just really glad that this episode did. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about with that. Now, getting more onto content, we saw the new spacesuits. And so this was something that we knew was going to be coming at least in Season 4, right? And so we had concepts released quite some time ago, and so we were like, sweet, new concepts for Season 4, we knew they were coming, we had them confirmed pretty much right after Season 3 finished airing last year. I think it was in like a Miraculous Secrets or something, Marinette had said something like, ooh, Space Power's coming or whatever. So we knew that they were coming. I honestly did not expect them for the New York special, but it was a good fit. They used them well, and this is really how they should be using powers, right? Because the spacesuits are not only functional in space, they are flying suits. So Ladybug and Cat Noir can fly, and it's just an easy way of moving around, right? And so this is a really big thing, and it shows that we will probably be seeing this more often. Like, I wouldn't expect, like, if they can fly, that's a pretty good asset to have. So I would think that they would try to use that, right? And so I'm just hoping that this is just a sign, like, yeah, we're going to be more open to using our special power-ups, because when they were introduced back in Season 2, we saw them, like, once or twice, right? And then it was like, oh, okay, cool, well, let's forget about them because we don't really ever use them, right? And so now that we're starting to see that, like, okay, so some of these are actually kind of useful, I'm hoping that we actually start to see them more in Season 4. Now, as far as the name, Cat Noir is named Astro Cat, and Ladybug is called Cosmo Bug, so, yeah, those two characters, and the designs look pretty cool, too, so, yeah, I was really excited to see those in this special. Now, next big thing is we actually learn how the Lucky Charm functions and how it works. Before, we were just like, okay, so it, like, fixes things, like, there was no real boundaries, like, how does it work, right? But now we have confirmed pretty much exactly how it works. So the way it works is it creates a magical object that can repair damage caused by a singular villain. And the villain has to be there, right? So the villain can't, you know, be long gone like we saw in the special, and then Ladybug's like, okay, so I should probably fix things now, right? So it doesn't work like that. The villain has to be there. Now, obviously, I think there's probably a little bit of leeway there, because I feel like there have been some time, well, maybe not actually. I'm just saying there may have been a time when the villain, like, de-transformed and then Ladybug did her Lucky Charm, but whatever, right? It's at least a good starting point, right? I think they're not really too, like, this isn't like a rule that they're gonna follow like 100%, I don't think, but it's good to have a guidance as far as how it works, and so we have a basic guideline of how the Lucky Charm works. So I think this is really, I don't know if it's actually important, but I think it's really good to know, because a lot of the powers and stuff were just like, okay, so Ladybug can create things, is like, how is that all? Or like, we don't know a lot about the specifics of the character's powers, and so I feel like getting a better understanding of the powers is just good for our understanding of the show in general. And then this is sort of related to the last point, but we learned how people just don't figure out their identities, right? Like, that's a huge gag in the show. Like, it's so obvious who the characters are, right? But there's a thing called quantum masking, and it basically means that people cannot, like, cognitively figure out who someone is. Just, I don't know, based on a picture or something, I guess? I don't really know, because here's the thing, right? When Alia was holding up a picture of Ladybug with the face cut out and then holding it up to other people's faces, like, I still feel like you would be able to find a pretty good match. And then another thing is Alia ran Ladybug's dialogue through like a technology app where it like scanned the voice, and then she was like, I don't know, she'd like interviewed people and was like trying to figure it out that way. And as far as Uncanny Valley, like, she could get past the quantum masking because she is just an AI, right? And so why wouldn't computers be able to do the exact same thing? Like, I feel like if Alia was to have a picture of Ladybug and a picture of Marinette, a computer could probably get past that quantum masking because it's a computer, and Uncanny Valley is a computer as well, and so it should be able to be like, okay, so this has a 95% match between these two people. Like, I feel like you should be able to. So the quantum masking doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense, but it's at least something, you know? It's not like, okay, there's no explanation whatsoever. We at least have some sort of explanation, so I guess that's a step in the right direction. Okay, so now on to like Miraculous New York special content, I guess. So we got a new Kwami, and this is actually pretty interesting because there's a lot that revolves around this new Kwami. So the Kwami's name is Leary, and they are the Kwami of Freedom, and they inhabit the Eagle Miraculous. Now, Leary's power is to free anyone from something that prevents them from reaching their full potential. So, like we saw in the special, let's just say Majestia, for example, right? She was afraid of her own power. She was like, man, I'm the strongest person in the universe, possibly. And so I just have to really be careful, and I'm scared of, like, you know, destroying the earth from, like, a single punch because maybe I could tear a hole through it, right? And so what this power does is it's like, okay, let's just ignore that. Like, let's just ignore my fear. Like, man, I'm the most powerful person in the world. That's so cool. I can do whatever I want, right? And so that's sort of what that does. Now, this is one of the many lost Kwamis in the world, and Gabriel was like, yeah, okay, so this confirms my suspicion. There is a lot of lost Kwamis, and I'm gonna find them. And so what this could actually mean is that we will actually be seeing more specials, especially if the New York special turns out well, if the numbers are fantastic, which Miraculous always does really well. Miraculous is #1 on charts all across the world. So my guess is this special will do well. And right now we have season 5, up to season 5 confirmed, but my guess is honestly we're going to be seeing more specials, more seasons, because just thinking about it from a business standpoint, they would be missing out on so much money if they didn't continue it. And the way that the show is right now, they can easily stretch this out. This isn't a show where it's like the creators are like, no, I want a set like amount of episodes, right? Because it's not really, it doesn't follow too much continuity up at this point. But like, so they could really stretch this out and like give us a bunch of content for years to come. So yeah, my guess is we will be seeing more specials, more Lost Kwamis. So it'll be a good, fun, I don't know how long it's gonna last, but I assume it's gonna be airing for at least another 10 or 20 years. Oh man. Now, staying on the topic of Leary and the Eagle Miraculous, we have a new Guardian. So the Eagle Miraculous belongs to this new box that we haven't seen before. Now, I got a lot of people asking me like, hey, why is this box so similar to the box that Master Fu had? And why is Ladybug's box not like that, right? Ladybug's box is really unique and different. And this new box is very similar to the old Master Fu box. And I don't know the reason for sure, but my guess is this is because it was tradition, right? The old box design is what they've always been. When we saw the Feast episode, we saw a flashback and we saw a bunch of different boxes and they all looked fairly similar. They all had pretty much the same design. And so my guess is the Guardians just, you know, were trained and this is what the box looks like, right? And so when they became the new Guardians, the design didn't change because the design is inherited from what the Guardian expects the box to be, right? And in that case, it's a very similar design to what Master Fu and this new Guardians box is. However, Ladybug was not trained by a Guardian, so her design of her box was just completely different. The only box that she knew was Master Fu's box, right? And she didn't know that the boxes were all like a very similar shape and color and whatnot. So she was just like, okay, cool, I'll make this box my own because I can be unique. And so it's just a matter of not being trained and not like being like, okay, so the boxes all look like this, right? And so she just didn't know, and that's why her box looks a lot different from Master Fu's box. So I just wanted to clear that up. Hopefully that answers some questions that some of you may have. But going back to the Guardian is like, hey, Eagle, I need that Miraculous back because it is not yours and I have been looking for this for a long time, yada yada, right? And Jess is like, how about you stay here and let's form a new generation of miraculous heroes. And so, I mean, as far as we know, the Guardian was like, that's not a bad idea, let's do that. Which I don't know why, that seems like a very, like, the Guardian at first was like, okay, no negotiation, give me the Miraculous back, right? And then he was like, actually you have piqued my interest. I mean, I guess we don't really know a lot about this character, but it just seems like a 180 turnaround. And so with this new League of Heroes, it's like, whoa, this is pretty cool because there's a bunch of new heroes that we could be seeing. And I'll touch on this later, but like, there seems like there's a lot of content that could be explored in New York. Are we ever going to see it again? Probably not. But I really wish we did because it really is interesting. So next thing I want to talk about is the New York people powers, because the way that their powers in New York work are a lot different from the powers of the Miraculous, or at least that's what it seems. We don't know. I don't think we have a good explanation as to how this works. Are we going to get an explanation? Probably in time. I'm sure Thomas in a tweet will say something like, this is how the New York powers work or whatever, but as of right now, we don't really know. But what we could gather from the special is each superhero, with the exception of, I don't know, I guess Eagle, they have a bracelet, right? And this bracelet holds their power. And so when they activate the bracelet, they get their power. And it doesn't have a Kwami or anything like that, at least as far as we know. We didn't see any Kwamis, but they just click it and then boom, they transform into whatever superhero they are and they gain an ability. Now to me, that seems very vague. Like I just don't like it as much as I like the concept of Miraculous, because Miraculous is thought out, right? Each Kwami is an abstract idea or concept. Like for example, Tiki, she is the Kwami of creation. That's based off of an abstract idea. So I mean that's well explained, and the powers revolve around creation stuff, right? But like these Sparrow, for example, like Sparrow I don't even think has powers. According to a Thomas tweet, he was like, yeah, so they don't have powers, or at least the previous people didn't have powers. So I don't know like what's going on with these heroes and their powers, because obviously some of the heroes did have powers, but Night Owl and Sparrow really reminded me of Batman and Robin, and I think that's sort of what they were inspired on. So they didn't really have powers, but they still had the bracelet. So I don't know, I don't understand. I don't think it's very well thought out. I hope we get an explanation, because it could be pretty important, because depending on how these bracelets work, it could also determine how villains work, right? Because how do villains work in New York, right? Ollie made a comment in the New York special saying like, oh, there's heroes for everything in New York, but how do villains work, right? Because in Paris, villains are formed from Hawkmoth, and that's a singular villain, right? So, I mean, that's easily explained. That makes a lot of sense. But in New York, like Technopirate, for example, like, does he have powers normally? Like, how did he get onto the plane without powers? Like, we don't really know what his powers are. We just knew that he was a villain that steals technology, which to me doesn't even really require, like superheroes, right? Unless if he's just like super smart, like he mentioned something about making an atomic bomb. Like if he knows how to do that and he's just like super smart, then sure, okay, that's I could see like heroes being needed for that, right? But if the villains don't have powers necessarily, right? Why do you need so many heroes? That just doesn't make sense to me, right? And so that begs the question, can really anybody make these bracelets? And if you make these bracelets using a certain piece of technology or some sort of like magic something, then you can get your own power, and then whenever you activate this bracelet, it awakens your power or something like that. I don't know. This is something that I want to find out, because I mean, they could definitely introduce this, because like if it's a big thing in New York, you would expect it to spread to other countries, right? Like, you would expect other countries to have this technology and be like, okay, cool, villains and heroes popping up all over the place, requiring the need for heroes. Because right now, I just don't see a need for them necessarily, right? Because there was one, maybe two villains in this most recent special. There was Technopirate and Hawkmoth. And so I don't know. So yeah, all I'm saying is that these bracelets could, like, for the Shanghai special, for example, right? Like, in China, they could have the same technology, and this could be, maybe there's some Chinese heroes that are there and that are helping protect from villains that we don't really know about. I don't know, but it's just, I guess we're gonna have to wait and find out, because we just don't really know at this point. And staying on the topic of heroes, there was a lot of heroes that we did not, like, learn anything about. Like, there were those 3 ant characters, which we didn't hear from at all. We just saw them in the background. Like, there was a lot of cool heroes that were just pretty much ignored, because frankly they ran out of time to explore them, I think. But like they were just more background characters to illustrate how many heroes there are in New York. So it was kind of sad. I thought it was sad that we didn't get to see those characters more. So it makes me wish that there was another New York special or episode that would come out. Like, if this was a show with a lot of continuity, this could be like a whole like New York arc, where like they would go to New York for an entire week, right? Which I think they did, but it was portrayed in an hour. And so we could have actually seen each individual hero like specialized on a singular day, right? So like day 1 could be 2 episodes, and then each day would be 2 episodes long, and then that would just be an arc instead of a single episode, which is just longer than most other episodes, right? So yeah, just another like, hey, I wish we would explore this more, but they ran out of time kind of thing. Now, another question that I don't think was very well thought out in this special is when Techno Pirate, or I guess technically it was Technolizer, right? But then what was the eagle for? I can't even remember because it was like so many layers deep with this villain. When the villain, when Techno Pirate used the Eagle Miraculous and liberated all of the heroes, right? Why did the heroes start attacking the younger heroes, right? The ones that were not liberated? Because it didn't make sense to me, right? The Eagle's power is to just make the fears go away, right? Or not necessarily the fears, but like it was just supposed to make whatever was holding them back go away. Okay, that's what the power was. So then why was Sparrow being attacked by the other heroes, right? Because the other heroes, they should be going and doing their most desired thing, right? Like, because nothing is holding them back anymore. They can do whatever they want. So why would they spend their time trying to capture or trying to defeat like Sparrow, for example? That didn't necessarily make too much sense to me. Like, the Miraculous should not have had any effect on their personalities necessarily. It's just like, man, this thing at the back of my mind that I know I'll never get to do is now something that I can do and I want to do. So let's go ahead and do it. So yeah, I don't know. That was just something that confused me and I wanted to point that out. But other than that, it was a good special. Now, the final thing that I'm going to talk about in this video, and probably the thing if I did not talk about, I would get like yelled at for, is the shipping. Because whoa, there was a lot of new stuff in here for shipping, kinda. So the relationship between Marinette and Adrien is still complicated. Marinette still is in love with Adrien. Okay, so that's where we are right now, right? It was like, well, is she gonna move on to Luca? And at the beginning of the special, she was like trying to. She was trying to forget about Adrien and like, oh, he's just a friend. But at the end of the special, she was like, no, I still love him, right? So that's sort of where we are with Marinette at this point. Now, as far as Adrien and Kagami, I still think it's unclear because technically, I mean, that one scene with Adrien and Kagami sort of made it seem like they might be dating, but I don't see it yet. Adrien still, as Cat Noir, Adrien still seems like he has feelings for Ladybug at that time. So I still think they're pretty much at the same place that they were sort of at the end of season 3. Adrien and Kagami are probably pretty close to starting to date, but they're not there yet. But in case you needed more confirmation as to, well, is the OTP gonna actually end up happening, or is it gonna be looking at Kagami? Oh no, so scared. Guys, don't worry, this special should have hammered in, like, these two characters are made for each other. Sparrow and Uncanny Valley both were like, yeah, okay, so I guess they are made for each other, right? And so that's just more confirmation that you don't have to worry. By the end of the show, they will end up getting together. Now, I think the relationships between them is gonna stay pretty static throughout season 4. Like, Marinette's still gonna be going after Adrien. Just as much as she did in season 3, probably, that's my guess, unless, okay, something could change, episode 1 of season 4, like, I don't know, maybe, but, as of right now, I still think Marinette's still gonna be going after Adrien and trying to, you know, confess to him or whatever, and my guess is Cat Noir is still sort of gonna be, like, confused, like, he doesn't really know. He may actually, episode 1 of season 4, he may actually be like, okay, so I'm gonna try dating Kagami, but I don't think it's gonna go very well. So I think that it's pretty much gonna be the same as season 3, probably. Just a little bit different because Adrien could possibly be dating Kagami, but again, don't worry because Marinette and Adrien will get together eventually. Don't know when, but it will happen. So yeah, just wanted to point that out, that yeah, don't worry. Like, if this episode was an indicator of anything, it's that they are not getting rid of the funny gags and between the relationship between Adrien and Marinette, because, I mean, that's a big part of what the show is. And if they got rid of those funny gags, like, oh, Marinette tripping over and then Adrien falling on top of her or whatever, right? Like, that's part of what makes this show this show. And if they got rid of that, then what would that make this show, right? And so they're not gonna get rid of it, obviously, right? Because that just would not be smart. So, yeah, that's where we are at this point. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you did enjoy, you can leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
You didn't recycle your cans, and you didn't return your library book. You're both going to prison.